Hi, hello. This is my very first time going live on YouTube. So, um, be patient while I figure out the platform. And if I have any technical difficulties, etc., we'll get it figured out. It's my first time trying it out. We'll see how it goes. And hopefully, I can make more content like this if you guys like it. So, we're going to talk for a bit about the full moon in Taurus for 2024. This moon is mostly full tonight on November 14th. It will be 100% full on November 15th at 1:27 p.m. Pacific time. So that is 4:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November 15th is when it will be 100% full. And so that is the sun at 24 degrees Scorpio and the moon at 24 degrees Taurus. So the sun and moon opposition building up tonight and coming to a full, complete culmination tomorrow afternoon for November 15th. So I'm just checking out the vibe, seeing if anyone is going to come into the live before I jump in. So we are feeling good on a Taurus moon. How about you? Okay. My name is Liliana Blackstar, and I am an astrologer at Hestia's Muse. You can find my website, hestiasmuse.net. You can find my Patreon at www.patreon.com/hestiasmuse. My Patreon supporters of the Lunar Living tier already have access to this information about tonight's full moon. And that is in written format on a blog post that was posted earlier today on November 14th. If you want a written version, you can head on over to the Patreon, and I post stuff for every new moon and every full moon. And I post general astrology updates every 10 days. So come over and check it out. We are going to get into it then. The full moon in Taurus. Here we go. It's kind of a big deal when the full moon is in Taurus every year because the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. So an exaltation is meaning that there is a sign where a certain planet does very well. It feels at home, it feels comfortable, it feels celebrated doing the energy of that sign. So the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. It really likes it in Taurus. Taurus is about stability and security and the way that we nurture ourselves. It's how we feed ourselves. It's how we take care of our basic needs and make sure that we have rest and food and comfort and all of the things that help us be secure and stable, right? So the moon really likes it here because the moon in itself is very much a planet of nurturing and caregiving. It is the heavenly body that relates to our embodiment, and our moods and our feelings are so deeply influenced by our physical embodiment and how we feel. We all know that if we haven't had enough to eat, then our mood is going to be influenced by that, right? We all know that if we haven't had enough sleep, our mood is going to be influenced by that. So Taurus is about where we receive sustenance and nurturing, where we receive just the basic needs of survival, but also where we receive pleasure, because we all need to give ourselves some pleasure and find moments where we feel good in life. Taurus is a very hardworking sign. It's about work, it's about money, but we work because we are trying to build something for ourselves. We work because we are wanting a paycheck so we can pay our rent, have a safe place to live, or buy our food so that we can survive. Or we work because we are passionate about the thing that we're working for. We're trying to build something up and make it stronger or support something. And so Taurus is hardworking, but it is all in the name of pleasure. It is all in the name of sustenance and nurturing and survival. So with a Taurus full moon, regardless of the year and regardless of what is going on astrologically, each year in Scorpio season, we have a Taurus new moon and the Taurus full moon. I'm sorry, we have a Taurus full moon during Scorpio season, and we are all going to feel that very strongly. The influence of the Taurus moon is strong because it is exalted. It is in a place where it can be very lunar. So our emotions get amped, our feelings get amplified, our moods and our cravings get amplified by a Taurus moon, especially when it is full. So I also wanted to mention that this is a supermoon. So with a supermoon, that is when the moon is in the point of its orbit, that it is closer to the Earth than normal. And there are points when the moon is a little bit farther away from the Earth, and there's points when it's a little bit closer. And so a supermoon, we generally have 3 supermoons in a row. When it's on the side of its orbit, that it is closer to the Earth during the time of the full moon. And the opposite of that is a mini moon. It's when the moon is farther away. So when we have a supermoon, it's closer to us. The tides are going to be more extreme because the moon is closer. So the tides of the ocean are the very, very high tide and the very, very low tide because we have this extreme supermoon energy. So for us humans, this also means that the moon is kind of pushing more of its energy. Like it's closer to us. It looks bigger. It's more within grasp and maybe having more of an influence on our own physical waters, right? And so we have a couple things already going on with this Taurus full moon right off the bat. It is exalted in the sign of Taurus, so it already has a strong influence because it is exalted, and it is a supermoon, so it is closer. We have those extreme high and low tides, and it is just a very strong and potent full moon. Hi, Nellie. Thanks for joining. Yeah, already feeling it too. When I first started the live, I was mentioning that tonight the moon is almost full. So we are in this full moon energy tonight. It does reach 100% fullness on November 15th at 1:27 p.m. Pacific time. And so that's about 4:27 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So that's when it's amplified and reaches a fullness, but we are in this full moon energy already all night. So one thing that I wanted to do was look at some of the tarot cards that are associated with this chart, with this full moon energy. And so the first one right off the bat is the 6 of Pentacles. Let me see. Here we go. This is a card of the moon in Taurus. Anytime that the moon is in Taurus, you can think of the lessons and energy of this card. And so some of the key words for this card are generosity, charity, gratitude, sharing resources, giving and receiving, reciprocity, nourishment, payment, and reward. So as I was talking about Taurus being about our nourishment and receiving that those basic needs that we need, as well as our pleasure. Like this card kind of taps into a lot of that basic Taurus moon energy. And so it's maybe useful if you want to reflect on the meaning of the Six of Pentacles throughout this full moon journey. I do have a previous podcast episode recorded about this card and its relation to the sign of Taurus and to the moon. So if you go into my podcast on my profile, you can find the Six of Pentacles episode that I recorded earlier this year, I believe during Taurus season. And you can check that out and maybe receive some deeper insights about something that this moon is teaching you. But in particular, I think it's just a good time to think about both what we're giving and what we're receiving. What are we putting out? And what are we expecting in return for that? There's this reciprocity and this energy of like receiving and giving being equal things that have to be happening in balance, right? And so you can be in different moments of your life, either the person who is receiving or the person who is giving. And hopefully there is some balance. We see the scales here. The scales represent kind of like having a balance between what we give and what we receive, as well as like an aspect of fairness to what we give and receive. We want to make sure that we are receiving fair pay for the work that we do. Obviously, we want to make sure that we are being awarded fairly and fairly for the work that we do, and also that we are giving to others fairly for what they provide to us, right? So it can be just a powerful tool to look at the tarot to kind of help you reflect on the energy with the full moon. All right, so Taurus is a sign that is ruled by Venus. So Venus is also playing an important role during this full moon, just because she is the ruler of Taurus, and that's where the moon is. And so we have to kind of pay some respects. It's like Venus is currently in Capricorn, but Venus is always kind of managing and ruling over what goes on in the sign of Taurus. She rules the sign of Taurus. So when any planet visits Taurus, it must kind of pay homage or pay respects to Venus. It's kind of like Venus is the queen or the monarch of that sign. And when you go there, even if the queen isn't there, you have to pay some respect and kind of follow the rules of what that planet might be teaching you or asking from you. So it's a very Venusian full moon. And with that, I go back to what I was talking about tuning in to our pleasures, our desires, our needs, and our nourishment. What are you craving? And how are you allowing yourself to experience pleasure or to kind of like receive that which you are asking for? So Venus is a really powerful planet to work with when it comes to manifestation, because we manifest things based on our desires. And Venus is all about our desires. It's about the five senses. It's about what we are attracted to. And if we are attracted to something or we truly desire it, we're going to have a better time manifesting that, right? Because we can tune in to that craving feeling and draw that energy to us. Whereas if we are not really into something, we don't like it, we don't want it, we don't desire it, then when you're saying, if you say like, oh, I want to manifest this thing, but you don't actually want it, then your energy isn't aligned with what you say that you want. So when we are bringing things into our life, when we're manifesting, we want to make sure that we actually want what we say we want, right? And so tuning into Venus can really help us with our manifesting, because we want to tune into like, what is making me feel good? What am I craving? What am I desiring? What am I attracted to, right? And so a lot of times with Venus, people focus on relationship, and relationship is part of Venus, but not all that there is to Venus. Because our relationships are very much connected to our desires and our cravings and what we're attracted to, right? We're going to get along with people. We're going to be attracted to people based on our desires, based on what we find pleasant and pleasurable. And so this is how Venus then ties into relationship, because then we want to experience pleasure with other people. We want to experience intimacy with other people based on our desires. So it's not just about relationship, but it is about desires and pleasure. So we want to take a look at where Venus is during this full moon, because Venus is going to have a lot to say to us at this time. So Venus has just entered the sign of Capricorn. Now, Venus in Capricorn is amplifying a desire for success, a desire for achievement, a desire for recognition, as well as a desire for stability, security, and just feeling safe. Capricorn does not like surprises. Capricorn does not like changes so much, unless those changes and surprises are bringing success. Then Capricorn can get on board. But at first it's like, whoa, 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 what's happening? Why are you changing things up? So Venus in Capricorn is like, okay, we're going to go after success because we desire it, but we want to do it like respectfully and carefully or cautiously, and with a little bit of awareness of risk, right? So Venus in Capricorn is not necessarily going to drive us to take big chances or big risks, and it's going to help us seek out that which is stabilizing and secure, as well as what is mature and responsible. So the Venus is currently in the first 10 degrees of Capricorn. It just got there. And that section of Capricorn, that first decan, is related to the Two of Pentacles. So here we have the Two of Pentacles. This is a card of Capricorn, and it is a card of Jupiter. You could see it as the card of Jupiter in Capricorn, but remember that it's a Capricorn card and it's a Jupiter card. We don't have to limit ourselves to it being about Jupiter in Capricorn, but we do want to keep in mind that it is the first decan of Capricorn, which is subruled by the planet Jupiter. So Jupiter wants growth and expansion. This guy's got some jobs that he's doing, some things that he's juggling, and he has to be really careful about this and play his cards just right. And if he gets it right, he can multiply this. He can expand these coins that he has, and then eventually maybe afford one of these tickets onto one of these ships to go on his journey, or his ship coming in, so to speak, which is very Jupiter and Capricorn. Like the blessings of Jupiter and the luck of Jupiter bring success. But with Capricorn, it's always about not the success that just shows up because like you won the lottery, but the success of like a promotion because you did your job really well and you managed your resources really well. So the Two of Pentacles is another card to reflect on during this full moon, because that's where Venus is. Venus is in this section of Capricorn, and Venus is the ruler of the full moon in Taurus. So let me check my notes, make sure I'm staying on track here. All right. I wanted to give a shout out to some of my friends over at Star. Star is a group of tarot readers and astrologers that have become very close friends over many years of interacting on social media. And at STAR, which stands for STAR, the Society of Tarot and Astrology Readers, they have created a new social media platform so that they could move off of Facebook and hang out with each other without being on Facebook because it gets annoying, right? So we have StarTheSociety.com is a new platform with a bunch of really amazing people who are just passionate about astrology and tarot and good friends, and we have a close community, but we're always like open to new people coming in and exploring tarot and astrology with us. So I encourage everyone to come check it out, and I want to give a huge shout out and appreciation to my friends over at StarTheSociety.com. Thank you, you guys rock. All right, I wanted to just back up and talk a little bit about just what a full moon is, right? We have the full moon, so we have an opposition of the moon to the sun. Sun is in Scorpio. We have all of this Scorpio energy coming in at us from the sun. The solar energy is really, really strong. It's just laying on this Scorpio energy. And at the time of an opposition, the moon will be in the opposite sign, so it fully reflects the light of the sun. So there's always something solar about a full moon because it's fully reflecting that light from the sun. But it's doing that reflecting from the opposite sign. And so in astrology, the oppositions and polarity points are really important. So when we learn about Scorpio, we also have to learn about Taurus. When we learn about Taurus, we also have to learn about Scorpio. So there is always a lesson with the full moon about balance. It says, hey, the sun is teaching us this really strong solar lesson every single day. Let's check in from the opposite energy and see what we need to reflect on from the opposite side of the chart, from the opposite side of the sky, and say, what can we bring in? What do we need to integrate? What do we need to make sure that we are remembering or not forgetting? During all of this Scorpio energy, we need to be making sure that we remember the Taurus energy, right? So with this Taurus versus Scorpio energy, we have Scorpio, which is very much a sign of releasing and endings. It's about what we let go. Whereas Taurus is about what we save and collect. Taurus says, I like this. How can I get more of it? Or I like this. How can I protect it and preserve it so that I can keep it? Whereas Scorpio is like, how can I release this energy? How can I let it go? I'm done with it. It's dead. I'm done. I want to move on. So we have both of these energies. And this is why there's this in physical astrology, which relates to the human body. We have Taurus and Scorpio axis is related to the process of ingesting food on the Taurus side. We taste it, we swallow it. The throat is related to Taurus. Our taste buds are related to Taurus. And then on the Scorpio side, Scorpio is the exit, where the food exits the body. It is the lower intestines and the colon and the process of releasing that back out into the earth, right? And then we have this energy of like Scorpio season is about compost and decay. It is the leaves are falling And the soil begins this process of composting, and the dead leaves like decay, but they return the nutrients back into the earth where they're going to be reabsorbed and grow, and we start a new cycle of growth from that release, from that ending, from that death. So there is, in Scorpio season with the Taurus full moon, this connection between what I take in is also what I release. So back to that energy of giving and taking, right? We give and take equally. But also there is an energy of Scorpio being about transformation. We break things down. In the process of decay, we break things down and dissolve it. And from that, we get the base nutrients from something that we absorb and turn into something else. Our body absorbs these nutrients and turns it into energy, right? So there is this transformative process of Scorpio, but we need to first be able to like receive, and our desires are so connected to what we receive. So there's this Taurus energy of, yes, I want that, and I'm going to enjoy the process of eating this food. And then on the Scorpio side, our bodies are breaking it down and absorbing it and transforming it into energy, and then releasing the excess that we don't need anymore. So not to get gross, but it's, it's all about eating and pooping. And so we also have this energy of Taurus is about stabilizing our energy. Taurus says, this is valuable to me. How can I keep it? How can I maintain it? How can I stabilize it so it lasts longer? Whereas Scorpio is about transforming and kind of like this process of transformation and death and release. So on one hand, Taurus energy wants us to focus on what we can fix and what we can keep, whereas Scorpio wants us to focus on what we can let go of, what we can release, and how we can change. And these are both very important. So during this full moon, we want to be able to allow ourselves to tune into this balance between what am I stabilizing, what am I keeping, versus what am I allowing to transmute and transform and let go of or get rid of, right? We want to be making sure that we're in balance and doing both of those things. So Scorpio is the death card here. This is the card for Scorpio. And Taurus is the Empress. So when we have them both together at a full moon, we have a full moon, we have the sun in Scorpio and the moon in Taurus. So we are really learning about balance between endings and beginnings, between what we release versus what we are bringing into existence. The Taurus energy with the Empress is very much about like creation and fertility and pleasure, and the Scorpio energy is very much about endings, releasings, letting things go, moving on to the next thing. With the tarot for this full moon specifically, we have the sun at 24 degrees Scorpio, which is the third decan of Scorpio, and that is related to the Seven of Cups. So we have this water sign energy with the cups, and the Seven of Cups is kind of this moment of choice where we are choosing to select something, but it's like these are all things that are in a dream or in our intuition, or something esoteric, something mysterious that we don't quite understand. It's not something like physical and direct, but there is a choice happening in this end of Scorpio energy in which we have to like choose your fighter, like what's going to happen next. And we have this kind of whimsical, dreamy state with Scorpio, like going deep into the psyche. And within that, we are choosing like which parts of our psyche are we going to feed and which are we going to release or let go of, right? It's that there's two wolves inside of you. Which one do you feed? Kind of like that. But in this case, there's like these 7 cups. There's these 7 different energies that you could choose to go with or nurture or destroy. And what you choose moving forward is going to have a big impact on your energy going forward. But this is something that's like so personal to you, because like what these cups mean to you is going to be different than what they mean to other people. Like a snake. Different cultures have different interpretations of what snake means, and your personal experience also has a different interpretation of what snake means to you. So picking the cup with the snake means something specific for you. It doesn't specifically mean the same thing for everyone else. This is very much an internal, personal experience that only you can have. And that's very much the nature of Scorpio. Scorpio leads us on these journeys of growth that we can try to explain what we experienced to other people, but they can't really experience what we did because that was our experience. We can go and see the same show and have vastly different emotional or spiritual experiences that come out of that. It's kind of what that Scorpio energy is. It's we all value something different because we are all having our unique perspective and our unique experiences like influencing how we see that. On the other side, we have Taurus going to be full at 24 degrees. I mean, the moon going to be full at 24 degrees Taurus, and this corresponds with the 7 of Pentacles card. Again, we have a sense of waiting and a sense of a choice to be made. But with the 7 of Pentacles, it is very much more related to our physical manifest reality. What have we been working on that is almost ready for harvest? What have we been working on that is just like so close to being picked from the vine so that we can enjoy it, right? So we have this Taurus energy of like when we work hard, we get rewarded. Remember, this card was also about reward. And this is the card that comes next. So we have both of these cards representing this full moon energy too, because we have the Scorpio sun on one side and the Taurus moon on the other side. And we get to kind of look at these to kind of play with this energy a little bit for this full moon. So we are going to take a look at the chart because there are a couple other things going on with this full moon that are making it really potent for us, right? We have the full moon tomorrow when it is 100% full. It will be in conjunction with Uranus. So let me pull up my notes here. All right, I have that the moon, again, will be 100% full at 24 degrees Taurus, exactly at 1:27 p.m. Pacific time. And then it moves into a conjunction with Uranus, which will be exact at 3:31 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So the full moon is got a very, very close connection with Uranus. And what does that mean? So this steady, grounded, nurturing, secure energy of Taurus is going to be somewhat disrupted by the presence of Uranus. So there's a shakeup. There's an unpredictable energy with the influence of Uranus. We can never quite fully accurately predict what is going to happen when Uranus is involved, because Uranus is the planet of the unexpected or the unpredictable. So there's also like this liberating energy of Uranus, because when something is unexpected, that means it's going against what the usual flow of things would be. So in that, we get kind of this shakeup, this, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen, and now I have to look at things differently, or I have to respond differently than I normally would have, which in the end is very liberating, because it frees us from kind of just being in a rut of routine, or having this energy of like, oh, I knew what was going to happen, and so I was just kind of going through my day in auto drive, right? So we can kind of get shaken out of that complacency into a space where we have to be more actively aware of what we are doing and how we're responding, because things are not going as we thought they would. So this alignment of the moon with Uranus is bringing an element of surprise and urging us to break free from our routines and our patterns or our attachments. It's asking us to break free from that which is holding us back, or business as usual. We need to do something completely different than we normally would have before. And this Uranus presence might kind of force that upon us, or it might just kind of bring us this energy of like restlessness and like dissatisfaction that is going to force us to maybe like act a little bit differently or do something different, because we're just bored or not feeling good with the way things are, or something happens that just forces us out of that complacency. So we're going to break free from our routines and our patterns or our attachments that might be holding us back. So Taurus overall is about craving stability and security. And the moon there especially is about like nourishment and pleasure and tuning into like that which makes us feel safe and secure. But Uranus represents change and innovation and freedom. So we have this kind of internal conflict here with Moon versus Uranus. Moon wants security and safety, and Uranus wants to completely turn everything upside down and do things differently. So we're kind of pushed to let go of what feels comfortable and engage with what is maybe less comfortable, but hopefully in the end, it's very rewarding, right? So sometimes we have to change things, we have to shake things up to get the better reward. So this full moon conjunction with Uranus might bring unexpected insights, sudden shifts, or the urge to take bold risks. And we'll have this sense of emotional restlessness or a sense of urgency. Like Uranus can often bring this feeling like, oh gosh, I have to do something different now. And so this can be shaking things up and challenging us to confront our fears around change and kind of be willing to embrace the unknown a little bit. So the lessons of a full moon in Taurus with this conjunction with Uranus is going to really bring up feelings of needing to learn about balancing stability with adaptability, because Uranus says we need to change. Taurus says we need to stay the same. There's something going on here. We have to find the balance and find the compromise? How can we prioritize stability while also being adaptable? So this is going to invite us to trust. Taurus is about trust, and Uranus is about transformation. So we're being asked to trust in the value of transformation. Trust that transformation and change in itself is a valuable experience that can bring more security or more stability, even though it feels disruptive. So this full moon is really about encouraging us to explore new ways of approaching our security and our stability, right? And release any outdated beliefs about what we need to be successful or happy. And it invites us to be able to kind of reinvent our inner dialogue about what we're telling ourselves that we need. We can reinvent what it is that we feel like we need for security through the energy of this full moon. There's really something powerful here about like there's an inner conflict that arises because we resist change or we cling too tightly to our comfort zone. And Uranus is going to give us that little extra shove to say, like, maybe I don't have to cling so hard to the comfort of the way I think things should be or the comfort of the past, and take that bold step to say, I can reanalyze and reinvent like what it is that I find valuable, and therefore what I find secure and stable and comfortable can change. I can adapt. So Uranus is going to push us towards this growth and authenticity if we're able to kind of embrace flexibility and be open to new ideas and allow ourselves to kind of adapt to these unexpected shifts and changes. But when we are in this adaptable, flexible mindset, this is where breakthroughs come. Because if we are being too rigid in our thinking, which is a tendency of Taurus energy to be very rigid in our thinking, but Uranus wants us to break out of that rigid energy and be more flexible. And this is where breakthroughs happen. This is where we have our inventive aha moments of, oh, there's a solution I hadn't even thought of before, right? So ultimately, this is going to help us like have breakthroughs and have a revolution within ourselves about how we are giving and receiving, energy, and what we are harvesting, what we're working hard towards, how we are balancing our work with our play, right? We can have all of these really kind of revolutionary experiences to kind of break us free from the norm and interact with all of that Taurus and Capricorn energy in a completely new way, or in a way that is new to us. So additionally, with the moon in conjunction with Uranus, we have the sun in opposition to Uranus. So we have the sun in Scorpio coming into an opposition with both the moon and Uranus. So there's also this aspect of it. It's not just a moon conjunct Uranus, it's a full moon conjunct Uranus, which means there's a solar opposition happening as well. So there's this really intense, unpredictable energy here with Uranus opposite the sun that kind of brings to the forefront the Uranus themes of individuality and freedom and change. Like Uranus wants to shake things up, but it's doing it for freedom, for authenticity. So we have this desire for independence being stoked by this Sun-Uranus opposition, because the Sun is very much about our personal identity and our personal vitality. And so Uranus is really like stirring up this energy of like a desire for independence, our desire to personally break free from limitations and routines or anything that feels confining and restrictive. Uranus wants to break out of that. Uranus says, I don't want to be normal and put in a box where people can define me. I want to break free and define myself. So this opposition of Uranus and the Sun can be creating tension, as it's highlighting the contrast between our need for vitality and illumination from the Sun versus our desire for spontaneity and liberation, which is embodied by Uranus. So we have both of these, like Sun in Scorpio is like having this desire for these very deep experiences, and Uranus in Taurus is also creating this desire for these liberating spontaneous experiences, and we have to be able to kind of find the middle ground between those so that the tension doesn't break, right? So there sees unexpected events, disruptions, or shifts in plans are common during a Sun opposite Uranus. There is again the challenge to be adaptable and a challenge to embrace the unknown instead of clinging to and being rigid or stuck in our way of thinking. The Sun opposite Uranus is really pushing us to kind of break out of our comfort zone and approach life with an open mind and experience embracing the change. But we also don't want to completely abandon the structures that we have built in that Taurus energy where we have security and stability. So we want to find a way to kind of express ourselves uniquely and authentically, but without like completely breaking all of our connections to things that bring us stability and security and pleasure. So it's kind of this very like thin line to be walking with this Uranus energy. Okay, so I did want to also point out that while the Sun and Moon, the Sun or Moon are having this interaction with Uranus, after the Moon has its little dance with Uranus, it is going to move into an opposition. No, a trine. I'm sorry. It's moving into a trine with Pluto. So we have Pluto in the very late degrees of Capricorn. Pluto is like at the time of this full moon in the last 5 days of Capricorn that we will experience in our whole lifetime. It's not going back. It's ready to move on into Aquarius on the 19th of October. So at this time, we're just in that very, very end of Pluto in Capricorn. And Capricorn is Earth. And so we have the moon moving into the very end of the degrees of Taurus. So it's forming this Earth trine, a trine aspect from Taurus to Capricorn. So there is a lot of Pluto energy also involved at the end of this full moon period. And that is intensifying this energy so much. It's very much amplifying it. It is the last full moon that we will experience while Pluto is in Capricorn. So it is kind of the bookend of the full moon lunation. That is the last lunation that we will experience during the era of Pluto in Capricorn, which started in 2008. So this full moon is kind of like putting that exclamation point on the end of the transit, especially since it has Uranus involved, and Uranus is also kind of in close proximity to a trine with Pluto also. So there is this trine energy between Uranus and Pluto, both in the end final decans of their earth signs that they've been traveling through. And so there is something really here with this full moon energy that's very Pluto in Capricorn is just kind of finishing up this work here. It is moving on to the next phase, the next journey, which is going to be in Aquarius, which Aquarius has very strong associations with the planet Uranus. And so the moon is kind of like passing this torch, Uranus giving this torch to the moon of, I want to create change that promotes freedom and equality and kind of like the ability to do things differently. And so the moon is getting this torch from Uranus, and then it goes into a trine with Pluto. And it says, here you go, Pluto. And then Pluto is going to take that energy and over the next 5 days, move out of Capricorn into Aquarius and start working on this Aquarius journey with Pluto. I do not have time to go into a full deep dive on Pluto in Aquarius, but there are a lot of astrologers talking about it right now. It is very much the sign, the transit that is associated with revolution. We had the French Revolution, we had the Haitian Revolution, we had the Irish Revolution during the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. And these were all uprisings in which the common people fought for more autonomy and more freedom from an oppressive ruling class. Across the board, that seems to be the biggest theme that we are looking at moving forward into Pluto and Aquarius. Is we look to the past to see what happened last time it was there 240 years ago, and we have a lot of revolution energy happening. We have a lot of energy focused on giving more power to the people through their fight for freedom and autonomy and equality. So we have that to look forward to. Revolution can be messy, but necessary, right? So we have this full moon, this conjunction with Uranus, and then moving into a trine with Pluto, and then Pluto over the next 5 days moving on into the sign of Aquarius. So there is some very big shifting, changing energy here. We're changing our tune. We're moving into a new realm of existence with Pluto moving into a different sign. It's going to be there for nearly 20 years. So we have the next 2 decades are going to be a big shift in energy, different type of energy than we have had for the past 20 years. So onward and hopefully upward. Here we go. The last thing that I want to talk about with this full moon is that also on the day of the full moon, on the 15th, we have Saturn in Pisces stationing direct. So Saturn had begun a retrograde period back in like June of this year. I can't remember the exact date, so I'm sorry if that's not correct, but I feel like it was June. Saturn began its retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and that is ending, and Saturn is beginning direct movement again. So we have Saturn in Pisces really starting to maybe amp up some of these lessons again, because when it's retrograde, Saturn kind of becomes more subtle, and the lessons of Saturn in Pisces have been more internalized, more like conceptual lessons, whereas when it moves direct again, those lessons become more direct, more like physical and real. So instead of having concepts of what Saturn in Pisces is teaching us, is going to be like direct lessons of Saturn in Pisces. The tarot card that is related to Saturn in Pisces is the 8 of Cups. So that full moon already had, we have the Scorpio energy that's talking about releasing and letting things go. We have the death card that's about letting things go. We have Pluto involved, which is definitely about letting things go. We have Uranus, which says we need to change things. We can't keep doing things the same. And then Saturn in Pisces is turning direct and saying, hey, remember me? Remember this lesson that we've been working on? Time to get back to this work. And this is, again, I don't have time to do a full deep dive about Saturn in Pisces, but I do have a full podcast episode that I recorded earlier this year about Saturn in Pisces and the 8 of Cups. If you go to my YouTube profile and my podcast, you can find the 8 of Cups episode. And that kind of talks more deeply about Saturn in Pisces with that episode. So we have kind of had a deep dive. We've talked a lot about the energy of this full moon, and I hope that you get a lot out of this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by and for joining me. You can follow me here on YouTube, and you can absolutely find me on other social media, Hestia's Muse on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you want to schedule a session with me personally, I can have a whole hour just to look at your chart and do this and talk about it with you. You can contact me at my website, and that is hestiasmuse.net. And if you want access to the written version of this and other stuff that I write, come check out my Patreon, and that's patreon.com/hestiasmuse. I am so grateful for you all being here, and we're going to hopefully get this episode uploaded so that you can share it and watch it again. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you do have a really transformative and blessed and comfortable full moon in Taurus. All right. Bye.